kirizamu abokuba ebyobutegeki nikyo kyokujja kiiti nikuko kubaho kwikyo konkale kantandikane n'amakulu aga. Ssemujju Nganda abiire ali nyampala w'ekigombe kya FDC bamunabiro mu ngalo. Ekikangu ogu niwo munyishenje olembo ogwakiira municipality okurugira aha baruha ehandikigwe Nathan Nandara Mafabi ali kuhandikira gambigambo w'ishenjero Anita Amonji yatorine Yusufu Nsibambi okuba niwe chief whip alikuzo mu bigere bya Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda yejunise enjendegwe ya mukaga kashosho kikuku kubanza alikoleka ngu yatorana Yusufu Nsibambi n'umunyakigombe kya FDC aza mu mwanya gone Ssemujju Nganda okunabiro mu ngalo kwa Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda ebi byona birija ahabo mwanjumbo gukwatire ne sente z'ekishobobo ezibesire nguni evil money esente eziolekeriire kuba zirongera kuba ziri kutanyaguza ekigombe kya FDC. Mwene mawe mwene tata obwemi gwagati ya Ssemujju Nganda ndabasa kugira ngo bukatandika kale mu mwaka ogw'2017 obu akabundika mucha muntu obukabe nikagenda kole kigombe kya anti shikangu Ssemujju Nganda akabali campaign wa manager wa Grigore Mugisha muntu obwemobwe bukagumiza muno kweyonjera murijuka FDC eri kunabiro mu ngalo wini chiza tugira ngu FDC ebigambo ebyo wakabiri ari kagambigambo wishenjere byagambirizo balimwe akagira ngu noshongu abebembezi b'ekigombe kya FDC abinji barenda ngu mugume muri abolo they feel insecure na mnonga washanga ngu wabo yine sente bo bakabe barenda ngu bagume barakushaba gwigana abuko muntu arabasa kugenda omisho no kwebuza fine sente zikarugankaye Yusufu Nsibambi we yatangire cyo kumutorana ine bigambo ebi Yusufu Nsibambi yagamba mushaki witu wa makolo ya ari bulindala ngo abase kubara bihurira.
It's not an easy position, as you realize, given the circumstances, but we have a duty and a responsibility to galvanize our party. I'm a founder member and deeply involved and concerned with what is going on. Given time, the parliamentary leadership will be in position to go and harmonize the different parties. I'm not even talking about reconciliation because it's not a very big problem. It's a slight problem which has not been addressed well. So as leaders, I think we have a responsibility to ensure that there are no infighting. We don't want to die like other parties are dying, because the entire nation is looking at FDC as a party to liberate this country, and that's the prime responsibility. The good thing that the two warring parties are also still inside. So we want to go back to Najana and Kumbi as insiders, so that at least the fights are within our boardroom. And I can assure you, I think we are going to do a very good job. It's just in your prayers. We have a lot of respect for Honorable Ssemujju, has been our whip. We have not had issues at parliamentary level. So Parliament as an organ is an organ which can come down to Najana Nkumbi and Katonga and bring these people to the table. So we don't have issues before we go for the delegates conference, if to be there in November. I've not talked to Honorable Ssemujju generally. We have talked briefly about the issues, but I think it has nothing to do with Ssemujju as a person. It has to do with issues raised by one side and then issues responded to by the other. So we just have to go and look at it.
The Chigini class, one of the biggest emperors Western Uganda. Omushija olachira yibondo lihangu. Mlagamba chibanywani banje. Ebyo nebigambo bya Yusufu Nsibambi yabase kuba naza mu bigere bya Ibrahim Ssemujju nganda tindamanya iwuhurikize eshanka ezo namukula gwito gwa country radio wamulatera kashani kirabasa kuba kirakwoleka ki tugira ngo n'amazima nyine kwe obumbi 15 baragambaho bukabasa kwandi bugende mu kigombe cya FDC. Actually Besigye aragira ngo it is evil money. Yagizire ngo esente zikaba ziraruga mu government yonyine yibaragwanisa ekiri koreka ngo bakabagendere ngo batunge an serious candidate. Maybe najya bakabara teka ngo FDC yaba etatwire nyine kwe bicweke by'obulenje gwizoba yayitijire munonga mu western automatically enale makaululera bera kahuta. Indeed it's what happened. Muragamba chema manziganje Besigye yaragigwe miziga izo bejanye mwebazo bwabe nagambo n'abanyamakuru warabiro ryaho kashanga bara kushundika bara kuya mu kigombe ochora teka ngo engineer wa Jombe kire ate cyanshemeza ninka abashija bakwabina bakazi kashanga omukazi arakubinga munju yawe yoyombe kire. This is very unique, my dear. The Chigini class, one of the biggest emperors in Uganda, Dr. Warren Chiza Besigye alebigambe byagambire.
This report is even equal to the paper on which it is. Frankly, it is totally worthless. In their findings, nor in their recommendations did they seek to deal with the dirty money, save as I have said, to recording what each one of us told them, and even then recording it in a biased way. Emotional for people to think that, the change you are fighting for, and, at some stage, clearly there is gross underrating of the gravity of this matter. Organize the liberation of the country. I think the members of the party have a duty to attempt at least to liberate their own party.
One Uganda, one people. One people, one Uganda.
At about 10 p.m. And he rang me saying that the other thing I talked, and he rang me saying that the man arrived at about 10 p.m. And he rang me saying that the other thing I talked about is about to arrive. And I said, but Nathan, where is it passing? Because this is curfew time. There was curfew then. And people were not allowed to move. And those who were allowed to move certainly would even risk to carry such money in the curfew time. But he said, don't worry, it's about to arrive. And indeed, before long, somebody was hooting at my gate. If they are charged to rescue the party from a path.
The Chigini class, one of the biggest emperors in Uganda. Gwenishenkulu wa kigombe kya FDC, Dr. Warren Chiza Besigye. Nomumu bantu izo bejanye mwebaso. Ababase kuba bali kulagwagwa emiziga. Namunonga ali kuleba bundi ekigombe ekiyagwanire. Kyolekere kuba kiri kumugendo ho mu ngalo. You can't just imagine. Muragamba chama manziganje. Dr. Warren Chiza Besigye yagenze mission ngono kuba nashobora kurungi. Abwenche talondira kalulu. Patrick Boy Amuliati.
It's emotional. So anyway, that meeting which we held here did not yield results. And in the second piece of information, I got slightly more details about some people to whom some of that money was was given, one of whom was the party president, the Honorable Amuriat Oboy, whom it was said had received 280 million. And so I thought it was helpful to begin with that one and see whether it was indeed true or not that he received money. And so I called the Honorable Amuriat and we met, and I asked him, did you receive money from the Honorable Nandala? And he said yes. I said, how much? He said 280 million. Did he tell you where it came from? Said no, but in a NEC, we had passed a resolution that we should borrow money. So I assume that this is part of what was borrowed. And I said, okay, if it was borrowed, would you know how much? He said, no, I'm not even sure that it was borrowed, so I don't know how much. I just got this money. I said, so what are you doing with it? And he said, well, the committee of elders did not make the slightest attempt to establish the facts. Zero. In spite of my having pleaded with them to do so. They did not check on the party accounts or party records. They did not improve the knowledge that we had before they were formed. In fact, their only written finding is that this was a very sensitive matter. We must, even as we organize the liberation of the country, to explain a matter that had become topical in our party regarding my absence in the 2021 presidential campaigns or the overall campaigns, the general elections. And having been given the permission, I indeed explained, first of all, why I was not available to be a candidate, and that having been a candidate for the Forum for Democratic Change in the previous 3 elections, and even one before the Forum for Democratic Change was formed in 2001, I had considered it necessary to be clear to the party that I would not be a candidate in 2021. And I did this through a formal communication to the party leaders at a meeting that was held in Choto in Namugongo in 2018. That was more than 2 years, in fact, close to 3 years before the next election. And the purpose of that meeting was to cause the party to select their next flag bearer in good time, since this would be a new flag bearer. And I pointed out to them why I would not be available for selection as a candidate in that election. So that was one of the points I communicated to the National Council. My absence as a candidate. The second point was my absence as a campaigner, and I pointed out to them that there were two main reasons why I did not become a campaigner. The first one, which concerned me, was the whole question of the funding that I had got very credible information on as having come from the very place that we sought to dislodge from leadership. And that we had tried to discuss this with our colleagues whom we were convinced were involved, and that those discussions did not yield any results. So first there was, at the very minimum, suspicion of hostile money having come into our party for the elections and from a source that could only be hostile, which was not adequately resolved to certainly my satisfaction. But that secondly, as if to indeed confirm my worries, that when the election, when the candidate was eventually selected, the candidate as usual selected a campaign management team, a campaign bureau, which is absolutely critical for a presidential election. Because a presidential election is an election, is a campaign that's held in the whole country and within a short time. And it's critical that there is effective campaigning going on across the country, even where the candidate is not and where the candidate has been. And it's also such a team that mobilizes resources that are necessary, planning and resources that are necessary for the conduct of the campaign. So a campaign team was appointed, but shortly thereafter disbanded. And so we had a presidential candidate without a campaign management team for the first time.
The Chigini class. Ekigombe kya FDC kikaza mu kalulu k'omwaka gw'2021 kitiine abutokubasa kweta campaign manager. Oshemeire kuba naakola hali ba agents, namye aba agents abaabye baliho abala kiro bwingi n'abala kunda ekigombe kya FDC konka bakaba tabalonzire. Can you imagine? Olateekateeka ngu nyine kwe obululu obubatunjire emitwalo 3 kusha nyamunekere abo n'abatwire bali nkunzi b'ekibiina. Olamanya aliho omuntu wetuulaga gyokwe alateera ekishumulizo kyonna eyi yakibona, eyi yashanga ekishumulizo alaba alateera kalulu. But I think this time around kirole kirakyalimu ng'ekigombe kya FDC kika kitali serious omukalulu akakukyabya ekirimu mu mwaka 2021 abukatu kabasa kunjira ngu nooso mu kalulu otiine mamanzi otiine bisurukale abala baasa kuba barakugwanira. Ebyo bigambo bya Dr. Warren Kiza Besigye oba bino agamba n'abanyamakulu izooba ejjanye mu ebazo. N'enkiwo kyolateekateeka mwene tata iwe ekigombe kya FDC olakireeboota kyabase kuba nkinaabiro mu ngalo Ibrahim Ssemujju Nganda kyamwiha abwa chief whip. Teekateeka mu ekigombe ekyo kyerekuja kulaala kyaba ng'okwo ebigombe bindi bikize kuba n'ebikumbagala obwisho obutaka tukaguma turabihulira n'okubishoma mu maziina. Olamanya aliho ebigombe ebyakumbagiire konka abo kugira ngu bikaba byarabiireho nobasa kuba n'obishoma nk'oku turashoma Bibuli baratoleka ebyabiireho mu myaka y'enyima Yesu Kristo abase kuba arazaagwa. Muragamba chama manzi ganje ninabapenda sana wantu wote banywani banje aba Robert Mugabe. Muragamba ki mwebale kwa mulamukula gwito gwa Country Radio ndabebaza kandi mwene ndabendize birungi. Alo banywani banje Julius oragamba ki na munywani wanje owa boda boda ogujjo misho ga wal combined efforts mwebale by the way mulakola mwebale kwa mulamukula gwito gwa Country Radio. Alo banywani banje abunda basa kujaba Happy Boys alugudora shuma kuri ife omupaka. Muragamba ki Happy Boys mwebale obuhereza abyone mulagenda mission agodo kwa mulakola lanye temporamisly the biggest man. Alo munywani wanje balamweta Alozias Mpirigwe ndakwendeze birungi webale kula mukula gwito gwa Country Radio gwe olamanya ni director wanye Kibale Parents mulimuta the honorary emperor the chiga